Well, apparently the only thing getting hot in Cleveland right now is the weather and draft rumors.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the code all lowercase locked on MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Before we get to everyone's favorite part, the intros, we just want to state this. We know after a day like today, losses like this can be frustrating. So segment one, we're going to talk about the game. And then after that, we'll be talking draft. We'll be talking Manzardo and a few other things like that. So if you don't want to rehash the loss, I'm just telling you, jump to segment 2 or 3 in the show. But now that I have stated that, hello, I'm Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts here. Can I also say that Justin and I do get along? Whenever someone makes a comment about one or the other of us, it's just always very weird to me. Like they somehow think there's a negative. I don't know, but we get along. You have to talk to anyone this much during a year. That cat sleeps with me at night now, so I can turn anyone. But for those who missed it, who are listening, Justin showed the clip of my cat smacking me in the face in the middle of a show. But I am Jeff Ellis, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Guardians. One of the OG hosts on this network. Before that, I was a national prospect and draft writer over at Scout and 24/7. I was your 5th favorite blogger at every Cleveland sports blog that has ever existed, as well as occasional contributor to Prospects Live.
And of course, I'm Justin Ladd. I've been here for a little over a year and a half now, and been covering the minor league system for better or for worse back since 2007. Former editor of Guardians Baseball Insider, currently covering the Guardians system for the News Herald, the Morning Journal in Cleveland, occasional contributor Prospects Live. And of course, this is Locked On Guardians. It's your daily Cleveland Guardians podcast. And we're going to dive into all things from the majors, even when it's tough, the minors, which things are going pretty good in the minors, and the draft. So no matter win or lose, we are here for you every day to get your daily fix of Guardians discussion. So you're in the right place for that. And we are happy to have you even after a tough game about that. And as we said before, we're going to talk a little about that game in the first segment here, and then we'll probably flush that and go on to Manzardo, some roster moves, and definitely a lot of draft talk because there's lots to get to. Obviously, the first thing you have to get to, though, is this is we said on Monday's show before we talked to Cooper Ingle Tuesday, which, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to a non-game related episode, if you're not into that, rehashing this one, go back and listen to Tuesday's episode talking to Cooper Ingle. We had a great time getting to know Cooper, and we appreciate him spending time on his off day to chat with us. So go back and listen to that. But so as we stated Monday, though, the Guardians have a 25 game and 26 day stretch leading up to the All-Star break. No off days except for July 1st, a Monday. And you're facing the Mariners, you're facing the Royals, you're facing the Orioles. It's a stretch of some pretty decent teams here, even though the Mariners and the Blue Jays have kind of been meh for most of the year. But
and the Mariners are first in their division, though, right?
They are, which mostly because they're pitching. Their lineup is terrible, although you wouldn't know about what happened on Tuesday night, unfortunately. But yeah, they're in first place. That division is probably what people thought the AL Central would be. But kudos to the Mariners. They've got a fantastic pitching staff, and they clearly can hit a little bit. But the issue really here for Cleveland is starting pitching. So we heard in the broadcast that Guardian starter has not gone more than 6 innings since May 31st. And don't go looking at anybody's June ERA, outside of the bullpen. Everybody's June ERA, except for Logan Allen, even then, his FIP is pretty rough. Tanner Bybee's FIP is pretty good. Ben Lively has been okay, but he, had a rough game on Sunday. So it's been a tough June so far. I mean, the good thing is they are in first place. They have a bit of a cushion, but I think the important thing here to remember, Jeff, is that I'm not going to sit here and say this is a disaster. The sky isn't falling after, 2 bad games in Toronto and a bad game against Seattle. If it happens more often like this, then it's a pattern. Right now, it's just a bad stretch. This team has had a bad stretch against the Yankees, which was 3 games. They played 3 bad games in Chicago. I won't even count the losses in Atlanta and Houston because those were tough games.
Didn't they lose to Colorado? Wasn't that the other?
That was a tough series. They won 1 game there and they lost 2. So I mean, yeah. So this is essentially it's their 3rd or 4th bad stretch all year. can't expect this team to not go through struggles. I mean, it wasn't exactly a team that was picked to do a ton to start the year. They've been a surprise so far, and this is a little bit of adversity they're going to have to face. So they were going to face some adversity at some point anyway. Now we're going to find out during this stretch that what they can do with it, or what they do facing it.
Yeah, when I look at it, it's like arguably Triston McKenzie has actually been the worst pitcher over the last month and a half. It kind of showed tonight. And listen, when he was good, he had the problems with command that would come and go, command and control. And we saw that tonight with him. And eventually, if you walk a guy to lead off every single inning, you're going to pay. And, this one got away. And then the bullpen picked the wrong night for everyone to give up a run. For a lot of guys like Cade Smith and Sam Henches, we hadn't seen that recently. For Barlow, he has had his own up and downs, but he's still got like a 3.64 ERA. He's still been solid. Heron, he was asked to go a little bit longer because they had to make up the innings. And I'm just going to sit there and say it again. Pedro Avila is becoming an important part of this bullpen, at least for the rest of the season. I know he's not like anything too special, but like occasionally you need him to do what he did tonight, which is give you another 2 innings and actually keep the score where it was. Like if they had managed to,
he was their best relief.
Yeah. Him and Gaddis are the ones who didn't give up a run. Like and that being said, Tim Herron still has a 1.21 ERA. Cade Smith is still 1.91. Like this bullpen is unbelievable. I'd rather it all happen tonight, right? Like, okay, if everyone's gonna stink,
don't spread out the stink. Yeah, don't spread the stink.
Yeah, let the stink all happen at once, and just make it a stink pot. Yeah, like this was Skunk City. So this one went sideways, but this bullpen is still so good overall. And on the other side of things, the Mariners also had to go deep into their pen. So we'll see how the rest of the series goes. Like I said, you can make a case again that McKenzie's been their worst starter. And, you look at this game, it's nice to see Will Brennan. I was looking at like monthly based data, and his numbers in June have been good. I believe last June his numbers were good as well. That's like, wasn't that when he was the Birdman was in June? So, again,
like May, June. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and Steeman had a hit and a walk and continues to perform well. There are positives to be taken even from this loss. And again, like we'll have to see how things get figured out, how they work with everything going forward. But the Pen had an off day. The offense still, I mean, was it 7-2 at one point, or was it again, good on this team for not quitting, trying. But the other thing we've talked about, which is runners in scoring position data, tends to be pretty uniform.
Cyclical.
And it's, there's some regression to mean with that, unfortunately. Though I had to sit there and really bite my tongue listening as they're talking about how good Andres Jimenez has been with runners in scoring position, because over like it's been a while since he was so hot, and now he is. He's been their worst hitter in June. He's been like a sub 400 OPS in June. He can't hit his way out of a brown paper bag right now. And they got him hitting 2. This is one of those few times where I'm like, come on, guys. Like, this is not the time to put that guy in your 2 spot. That's my one complaint. So I'll be quiet after that.
Yeah, really, it goes back to starting pitching. You can't be behind the 8 ball. And that's the other thing with the bullpen, too. You're bringing the bullpen in. And obviously, a lot of times this year, they've shut the door and they've allowed for some big comebacks. heck, the bullpen Sandlin was shaky on Sunday, right? And they still came back because the rest of the bullpen was lights out, like you said tonight. That was just a little bit of cuts and daggers in this one that didn't go their way. Avila was great. The offense, they scratched and clawed a little bit late here. But it was a little too much too late. You can't walk guys to start every inning. You can't have a bad fastball. Like we were talking off air about how McKenzie has survived this year, and it's not been good. His fastball this year, it's down 2 miles an hour. And the whiff rate is way down. He's missing less bats. It's getting crushed. Last year, 220 or 240 expected batting average and 390.
Very small sample, but the year before that it was still very good.
Yeah, it's been better. This year it's just terrible. The everything's down on it. The velocity's down. The spin is down.
He's a one pitch guy, kind of. When he's a texted me, but like we talked, he's essentially almost like a one pitch guy right now.
And it's hard to go out there and throw your secondaries. The one thing he's done this year that's been good, it's smart, is the fastball has been bad, and his usage rate went from, I know it was a small sample a year ago, but it was 63%. 2 years ago, though, it was 56%. It's down to 52 this year. So he's throwing the fastball a little bit less, which is how he's survived to this point. But obviously, if you don't spot your fastball when you need to, you can't really get to your other pitches. I mean, you can pitch backwards all you want, but at some point, you need to make guys respect the fastball, and he's just not able to do that right now. And I know I had a lot of people on Twitter who were like, isn't there anybody else who can do better than this? And look, Gavin Williams is starting Friday for Akron. This has to be the start where he gets into the fifth inning. Like, he has not gone past 3 yet. He's just had a lot of, I mean, this is essentially a spring training. You have to remember that too. This is a spring training. And I know everybody wants to rush everybody else out of the rotation and replace him. The thing about Williams I would caution is this is his spring training. He's coming off an elbow injury. And I know people are going to take this really poorly when I say it, but this essentially is going to be your biggest move for a pitcher. Like, they might trade for a starting pitcher, but you're not going to trade for somebody who has the upside of Gavin Williams, no matter what. So if Gavin Williams is going to come and save this rotation by any means, be careful. Don't rush him back just because other guys are struggling, because the stretch run of the season, the chance to get to the playoffs and do anything in the playoffs depends on his ability to come back and be the best he can. So, you know, it's one of those things. Lose the battle right now with a McKenzie and with a Carrasco, and then hope that, you know, by July or August, Gavin Williams is on a roll and he's healthy, and you were smart for biding your time and waiting, even if it hurt in the short term. So we'll see if that pays off or not. We can talk more about Joey Cantillo. We can talk more about minor leaguers. We'll talk about Kyle Manzardo, and we're definitely going to get to that latest mock draft and some other draft related stuff here for the rest of the show, so we can not talk about this game. So please stick around for all of the good stuff to come.
But first, let's talk about our good friends over at eBay Motors. Listen, they are here to keep your ride or die alive. Passion, drive, and patience, a formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. And now let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. If I am looking at the MLB data, let's check out the board. It always takes me to the WNBA. No shade on that. I just don't know the WNBA super well. I would not, for me, gamble on that. But tomorrow, you know, when I'm looking at the overall, there we go, hitter fantasy. I want to pop that one open and look at what hitter fantasy values. And again, I always like to look at who are the highest and who are the lowest. Freddie Freeman versus Colorado, a 10 hitter fantasy score. I don't know if I can recommend a 10, but it is Colorado. That's one of those that I kind of like to look at and play some value in. Bobby Witt, 9 versus Oakland. I would probably take that with the way things have been going at Oakland right now. I'd probably take more because it's as easy as more or less with Prize Picks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB. Either download the app or go to the website today for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Justin, you are muted.
Dude, this one's a show now. This is getting really bad. If you're tired of the yelling and screaming, maybe you're yelling and screaming yourself at the Guardians games, but you don't want it in your sports talk on whatever else is going on TV these days. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring the biggest stories without all the screaming and not muted either. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis and opinions from local hosts who know your team best. You can find them all on YouTube, free Amazon TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we cover your team every day. So we'll get back to the Guardians now. I think we've said enough about this game here in general. I mean, it's been a rough month of June for every pitcher, essentially.
Yeah, well,
and offense. I mean,
they're the lowest
except
team
for like
in
Brian
runs.
Rocchio.
Yeah,
And
I think they are
Stephen
the
Kwan.
lowest. Do they have? They might have the lowest runs in baseball in June. If not, they're like bottom 5. They're also bottom 5 in walks. They have some things they're doing well, but yeah, no. Rocchio and Kwan have been fantastic. Schneeman's been good. Jose's been okay. Gabby Arias has actually been good. I know people won't believe that statistically he has, but yeah,
I mean,
there's going to be
it's
ups.
been a couple at bats. Like
Yeah,
he's had
there's going to be ups and downs.
he's had 18 plate appearances. So
yeah, there's going to be ups and downs in any season. That's just the way of baseball in general. So like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Brendan's been hitting better. Rocchio's been showing some signs of life offensively. Schneeman, we'll see. Kwan's been on otherworldly. We talked about that. I mean, if Stephen Kwan is not in the All-Star game, there's a serious problem. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that. He's a great player. He's a good player. I don't know if I ever said All-Star Stephen Kwan, but he at this point has to be. If he's not starting, he needs to be at the All-Star game in Texas. Like, he has to be there.
Yeah.
Jose has been fine. I mean, it's just been, again, this offense we've said all along is going to be cyclical. They're not, they're still middle of the pack in home runs, which is what we hope for in the preseason. And hitting with runners in score position, it goes in cycles. Like, if guys just aren't on, you can't hit them in unless you hit a solo home run. And this team's not built to win on solo home runs, even if they are having an upturn in power. One of those guys who you'd hope would provide more power was Kyle Manzardo. He's back in AAA, and the Guardians, basically, Stephen Vogt said they just wanted to get him more opportunities. They are facing some lefties coming up, I will say, so there is that. I don't really know, though, if Manzardo, I think this is more of just having more outfield options to go on right now, a little more versatility is probably what Vogt said, is that, obviously, our ace isn't playing a whole lot right now, and they need a little more versatility in the outfield, and you have Schneeman, and who played center field, and he plays everywhere. So right now he's got to be in that role and fry. So Rodriguez in the outfield gives him a little bit more and can do more against lefties. But I mean, that's the thing with Manzardo, is like, he's only a first baseman and he's got to hit. And it's almost no anymore. Like you were saying off air about Jackson Holiday. I know Kyle Manzardo's not Jackson Holiday, but everybody pretty much struggles when they first come up. If you are not, even if you are a phenom prospect, like you're probably going to struggle. So I'm not too worried about it. I understand people are probably not thrilled about it. He didn't get as much playing time as maybe you'd like. The real issue here is, like, they need Josh Naylor to figure it out. Forget about Manzardo right now. Like, they need Josh Naylor to figure it out. The real guy, I think they really need to get a look at. I know Rodriguez is back up, but the Valeras and the Noels are the guys. Valera and Noel are the guys they got to look at. I said this a few weeks ago. I said, you've got this like 6-week stretch to the trading deadline here to figure out those two guys specifically, because they're out of options next year. And if you want to trade for someone this year to help you in the playoffs, yes, they are not going to be Ben Lively next year for sure. So if you are going to trade for anything in the outfield that's going to help you get through the rest of the season and the playoffs, they pretty much aren't an option unless over the next 6 weeks you plug them in and you find Oscar Gonzalez, like you said before, and you just figure out next year, and you hope one of these guys takes off. But
can I ask one question? So with both those guys being on the 40-man, it's essentially once the season begins, they have to make the roster, right?
Next year, yeah. So it'll be like,
so it's just like the Florial situation.
When they had Urshela and Eric Gonzalez, they had to pick through.
Well, no, just this past year with Florial, where the Yankees, I mean, there's still a world where you can still trade them in the offseason if you can, but
correct.
There's also a world where one of these two guys should probably be an asset at the trade deadline to a team that's like, okay, let's trade for a hot bat who's close to the big leagues that you can use. So you should give,
they're not going to be
an opportunity. Not going to be a major, but as a B piece, I think they've put themselves in position to be B pieces.
Probably more Valera than Noel, just because of his
positional value.
Positional value, being a left-handed hitter, and his former top prospect status, whereas Noel, was a hot prospect at one time, but he never had the shine that Valera had. Yeah. But left-handedness, more ability to control the strike zone, or at least in terms of being patient. And like, I know everyone loves Valera because he just hits absolute missiles when he makes contact, but there are still some batted ball profile issues there. Valera, he's got a lot of swing and miss, but he is somewhat borderline passive, so he will take his walks, and definitely a better defender no matter where you put him than Noel. So there's more value there. But I would hate to not get a look at either of them, because what if on the off chance Noel does enough. I mean, the problem with Noel is like you set Manzardo down. I would rather have brought Noel up anyway. You know why? Because Noel does play first base like Manzardo. And, you know, if you're willing to stick Jonathan Rodriguez in the outfield, I guess you can also stick Noel in right field for 5 innings like Fry. Like you do it in the minors. Why not do it in the majors and just see if the bat's enough? You know what I mean?
I guess. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
I mean, and let's not act like the next 6 weeks. Like, let's say that they give him that 6-week trial or 5-week trial, whatever it is, to the trading deadline. Let's not act like the next 5 weeks is going to change a lot about anybody's opinion on them, whether you're keeping them or trading them. All it's going to do is just see if they can help you right now and maybe give you a chance to hit the ground running into next year if you decide to, you know, stick with them and get them so their feet wet now. But it's not like if they come up for like 5 weeks and hit the crap out of the ball and you decide maybe to move them. Like there's no showcasing. There's no showcasing. I mean,
what do you mean? I've always heard about it. You're the person who always tells me all about showcases.
I can't do it today, Jeff. I can't do it today.
I agree, but it's just one of those things where, again, to go back to the Florial situation, a prospect who had some degree of shine, who is playing well, is always going to be interesting to a team that kind of liked him at some point. So
yeah, for sure,
there is always value, but I agree, it'd be nice to give one of them some run.
It would make some sense. Rodriguez, I know he has probably earned it, to be honest, but he's got options left, and I think this is not the time to go there. But we'll find out about that. A lot of draft stuff going on right now. The combine happened on Tuesday. We had a mock. It started. We had a mock draft dropped earlier week with some interest. We'll definitely go out and talk about that as well as some other strategy. Let's talk about the thing that not everyone wants to talk about all the time, but you have to do it. It is life insurance. Life insurance is one of those things that can give you peace of mind. And with Policy Genius, you can get quotes online with them for life insurance policies that just start at $292 a year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. If you have a high risk job, if you change jobs, my company a year ago got sold and I didn't get to keep my life insurance policy with a new company. So I had to go out and make some other decisions and reach out for other options. Policy Genius helps you do that. And they are not beholden to one policy or one insurer. They will help you find the policy that best fits you. If you don't believe that, they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot you can look through from customers who found the best fits for their need. So get peace of mind by finding the right insurance policy with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com. And here on Locked On Guardians, we, of course, pride ourselves on getting you the latest news on your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, which we always do. Spring training, the playoffs, you know, it's year-round with us. And you know what else is year-round? Collection season. When tax season is over, it doesn't mean you are out of the woods. The IRS can still come after you for unfiled taxes. They can garnish your wages. They can levy your bank accounts and even seize your property. Look, as 1099 people or whatever you want to call it, contractors, we have to deal with different taxes too as well. I've had to deal with myself for working out of state for a company as well. It's a lot more difficult than I ever imagined. I've had to go through a lot of hoops to get that taken care of. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. They have over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. And if you owe taxes, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt with complicated matters. Finally hit that parlay this season. Need help filing? Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon and see the link in this episode, the description below. If you're daring enough, the Guardians are back in action on Wednesday against the Mariners at 6:40. Just check SiriusXM to find all the action on your app. Just search Guardians. All right, so Jeff, we had a mock draft. What do you want? You know about the mock draft? I think we should do that first. People are curious about the mock draft. So the latest mock draft we saw that came out from our good friend Carlos Collazo, who we've had on the show before at Baseball America. His latest mock, without giving too much away. I mean, I don't want to go into it too much, but He had JJ Weatherholt 1-1. I know some people were upset by that. The later piece of that for him was Slade Caldwell going 36, which I would love to believe that's true. You and I both like Slade Caldwell a lot. If he was 5'10", he'd be a top 10 pick. He's probably 5'9", maybe even 5'7", if we're being
He's
honest.
probably like, basically, it's like, if he is, I have a hard time seeing him get past several teams like in the late teens, early 20s. But that makes me go, is he really 5'5"? Is he like 5'6" instead of like he's
If
listed?
He
He's one
far,
of those,
yeah.
It's like you understand that most guys are probably about an inch below their listed height. I just almost without just subtract 1 inch from everyone. That's kind of the general rule. And he's listed 5'7", I want to say. So
Fair.
He is smaller. So there is a world where sizes, like, I mean, there was a time a decade ago where Slade Caldwell couldn't even get the time of day with his height. Like, it wouldn't have mattered even 10 years ago. So I can understand the logic, but there's also some, like, he makes too much sense to Seattle in the middle of the first round. He's just going to make too much sense to Arizona doesn't
He's
care
going to
about
go
height.
somewhere in the 20s.
Like, it's like Arizona's got 2 picks before Cleveland, and this is a team that drafted a sliding Corbin Carroll, because remember, Corbin Carroll slid
Also
in his
short.
draft year because he was too short. So
he's a short king, not too short. He's a short king.
But this is the point. These are teams that draft that he's not. But I love Carlos, so I hope no one like goes and says Jeff Ellis said this. But you have to have someone at 36 if you are going to put Weatherholt at 1, right? You have to make a sexy pick at 36 to make the talk of the 1-1. And I do think there's always some degree of trying to game the system. Mention a few different names. I did like MLBs, which I don't think we got a chance to discuss from last week. You and I both have heard some things. I think 36, that target now is likely Braylon Doughty. If he can get there. I just think I've heard enough connections at Fire that is who I think is actually the 36 target. And then, they like California arms. They don't mind. Again, he's an undersized righty. They do look for that kind of market inefficiency. Like, what, if Braylon Doughty is 6'5", he's probably the top righty in this class, and he's a top 20 pick. If Slade Caldwell was 6'1", he'd be the top prep player in this class. This
might be in 1-1 discussion.
Yeah.
That's how good he is. Like,
yeah.
Go ahead. You're going to finish your point there.
Well, no, it's just like, there's a lot of interesting players. There's going to be reasons why they slide. Cleveland does sometimes go undersized because there is a way to find an inefficient value there. But I don't think necessarily again, if they save money, it's not going to be to drop it all at 36. It's going to be to take, a bunch of guys. It's going to be to add more money to every single pick in this draft. It's, again, Milwaukee's strategy a year ago where they took 4 big names on day 2 and paid them, and then took 4.
They still got Brock Wilken on day 1, which was a great pick, by the way.
Yeah, which is a great pick, which is a good value too, where relative to all things. And then was it Josh Noth, the one pitcher who you liked quite a bit? I liked Mike Boev, but he was under slot.
Liked him
good
too,
value. They took good value under slot. And then they used that money to get Cooper Pratt was my favorite pick on all of day 2. And then day 3 of the draft, they signed like 4 high ceiling prep arms. Like, there's ways to make it work. The Brewers put on a clinic a year ago, but again, they took value where they were at in the first round. They didn't reach down the board for value. They took value where it was at, and then properly they looked at the picture, talked to everyone who had value, and then they took the most valuable player from that group who they could maybe get savings on. Now, again, I don't know if Weatherholt is the most, to me, that's reaching down a tier.
I think there's a world where Weatherholt doesn't get hurt this year. Because, I mean, coming into the season, Weatherholt was the expected 1-1 guy for most people. Like, there wasn't, and there still isn't a clear-cut 1-1, which is why all this discussion is going on, right? Like, even last year, like with Skeens and Langford and Cruz, like, one of those guys was going 1-1, and that was the tier right there. And maybe Walker Jenkins, right? So that was the clear number 1 tier. This year, I don't know. It's like Bazana, Condon. I don't think there's like it's a little less defined.
I think tier 1 is very clear.
I mean, I think there's not as big of a gap as there was, in between these guys as there might have been a year ago. Like, I'm not saying there's not a clear tier at the top.
Max Clark jumped into tier 1 before those
That
other
was
guys.
because it was that was a poor pick, if anything else. But
no,
like,
I mean I agree, but like weird things happen.
I don't think the gap between Bazana, Condon, and Burns and Weatherholt and all those guys is as big as the top 3 a year ago, and then or top 4 a year ago, and then going past it. Like, I think it's still narrow enough. And if Weatherholt doesn't get hurt this year, there was still going to be a lot of smoke around him being at 1-1 anyway, because he does fit the Guardians type.
If
and
the
other
other
thing to remember here,
and
which we would have seen more of if he wasn't hurt.
And what
the
you
Guardians
think about
believe
his
that, though,
power ceiling?
Healthish. Yeah, he hit the ball harder this year. Like there are some data points where he and Bazana are very similar. Yes. And as much as I like Bazana, there is more likelihood that Weatherholt is a shortstop than Bazana would be. I don't think by any means Bazana is a shortstop. I think it's second base or center field or left for him. I don't think he's playing anywhere else. There is still a chance Weatherholt plays short. So here's the other thing about the draft too. None of this stuff is coming from Cleveland. When people say this, and this is why I love Pipeline. I still love Carlos, but this is why I like Pipeline, because they said the buzz is other teams saying the Guardians are going to do this. When people are writing, there's buzz about this. It is coming again. We've had this discussion before. It is coming from agents. It is coming from parents. It is not coming from the Guardians, unless they are doing it to try to create some leverage. And even then, I don't think it's that much coming from them. Truthfully, I think it's coming the other way around. Now they are shopping the pick around. They're shopping the bonus around. Don't get that twisted. I didn't want Weatherholt coming into the year because he just seemed like a kind of guy this team has already got in the system, and I didn't think he was a separator talent wise from what they already have. Bazana, to me, and Condon are talent separators that you don't currently have in the system. So I don't love the idea of going Weatherholt 1-1 because I don't think you have to save that much money in this year's draft. You should definitely save money no matter what, because you need to.
No one gets full freight.
Right. No one gets that. And they need to maximize their bonus pool this year because of the opportunity in front of them. But I don't know if I love doing it to the extent of passing up the clear-cut best player on your board in a year where the draft isn't that strong. And if you do it, if you don't do Bazan or Condon, you have to have something sexy in your holster, like you said, a Slade Caldwell or something else, and you have to have some prepared for 48, which all that stuff gets negotiated ahead of time. So we'll see. But this is smoke not coming from the team. And if they do that, again, not being cheap, it is trying to spread the bonus around. And if they do that, just hope they have something in their holster that's going to really, boost this draft up, because 10 great players on the first day or 2 days is better than one great one and 5 average ones.
Yeah, he's he's 8th on my board. So if you're getting 8th on my board at 1, that's gonna I'm just gonna be disappointed with that. There's no way around it.
How can Slade Caldwell really bump that grade up for you? You know what I mean?
I mean,
that's why I'm saying you don't have to save as much this year. You have to save some, but you don't have to save as much, because what you're getting in the lower rounds isn't as sexy as it was in years past.
Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. It all balances out. Like once you get to day 2, day 3, it's going to be similar value, but it's more where it's not going to balance out is you're not going to slide that guy to 36 like you might have in other years. You're not sliding someone to 48 like you would have in other years. Top of the 3rd round, there's not that borderline first round pick who's likely going to still be available like we've seen in other years, because there's just not that many first rounders. That's where you're not going to get the value. I would argue on day 3, day 2, there's still going to be the value of a high ceiling prep talent, an interesting prep talent. And that's where they could spend that money, and they should save at least $1 million in round 1 to save on those picks. But you found a guy that we both thought could fit their profile that we might have to save for tomorrow.
Yeah, we can do that tomorrow. I don't think we have enough time to really get super deep on that today, but just say the prospect found me on Twitter, and there is some connection between him and the Guardians from the West Coast, California. Once again, the combine happened again the first day on Tuesday. We can talk about that on Wednesday. We can talk more about players at 36 and 48. We'll save lots of good draft stuff throughout the week and heading up to the draft, just in case the Guardians don't get it turned around on Wednesday. But tune in on Wednesday and Thursday. No matter what, we will be here for you. And win or lose, the way you're always here for us.
Yeah, be here. Win or lose. I will say, I know we didn't get to the combine as much as we would like to today. But I do want to throw out and say they had some good data on Cole Mathis that we will share tomorrow.
It's our guy.
Previous guest, Cole Mathis, someone who may be in that date.
Ryan Prager we saw on Twitter today. We'll share that tomorrow.
So some round 2, round 3 names, and then we got a sleeper to talk about. So make sure you join us to find out about that. That's what they call the tease in the business. Shout out to Everyday Scott Hauser, who found sadness when he found out that Cooper Ingle almost went to his alma mater. Thank you all for joining us daily, rating and reviewing, downloading, doing your part, hitting that little thumbs up. Thank you all, and go Guardians, go.